As part of Chloe's system series, we're going to move on now to the sail suite and the installation of a new sail. The main objective here is to install a new head sail on a removable furler for light wind conditions. In the beginning, we had Chloe fitted with 3 permanent sails. There was the main sail, as seen in yellow. In this picture here, we have 1 reef in it, so it's a little bit bigger than shown here. And it's used for upwind and downwind sailing in angles of 35 to 170 apparent wind angles in greater than 10 knots of wind. The second sail that came standard on Chloe is shown in pink, and that's the jib, and that also requires higher winds to sail over about 10 knots. And the third sail on a permanently fixed furler is the staysail, which is a storm sail used for higher winds of about 30 knots and above. So we're going to be adding another sail specifically for low wind conditions that works much more efficiently than our current suite of sails. And this one is represented by the light blue and is larger than the pink jib that we have, and is also much lighter weight material.
Thus far, Chloe has been sailing with only 2 head sails, the jib and the staysail for stronger winds. We wanted to also install a light air sail for conditions where there's very little wind. We basically don't make any headway with our jib, so we wanted to go and purchase a Gennaker, and that took a little bit of time, so that wasn't ready by the time we had built Chloe and by the time Chloe launched. We had the Gennaker finally shipped after various delays to Motril in Spain. In making a decision to get a light air sail, you're confronted with several different decisions. For a sloop or a cutter, you're basically presented with different furling options of top-down, bottom-up, or the use of a sock. Top-down furlers are usually reserved for sails that are primarily for downwind sailing, like an asymmetrical spinnaker. Top-down furlers are generally more capable at furling in sails with a large camber or a big pillow effect held up high, up in the air, whereas socks are used almost exclusively for asymmetrical spinnakers and spinnakers. So a Gennaker is cut a little flatter than an asymmetrical spinnaker, perhaps something that is halfway between an asymmetrical spinnaker and a Code Zero sail. And because the sail is cut flatter, this means that the furling mechanism can be bottom up, and the bolt rope of the sail can be sewn into the sail. We ended up choosing a Gennaker as our light wind sail option, as it seems to offer an all-purpose set of points of sail.
So we're in Motril. We're still here during the shutdown, the lockdown, and we're going to install our Gennaker for the first time. We just got it delivered here, so we're going to install it it's a little different for each installation, but we're going to show you how we're doing ours. Starting at the head of the sail, or the very top, this is the hardware that we have.
This is the snap shackle on the end of the halyard. This is the main swivel at the head of the sail that is attached to the halyard snap shackle via a horseshoe shackle. And the swivel includes a little neoprene foam jacket that will protect the mast from being bashed by the swivel. Here is now the halyard attached to the swivel. We wanted to have extra control of the tack line so that we can control the shape of the sail and also be able to pull the sail very tight, as is important with these head sails.
And this tack line, or the line attached to the front of the sail at the bow, can be controlled at the mast via a winch.
Here you can see the pin that attaches the snap shackle that will sit on the underside of the continuous furling drum. Here you can see the tack line now attached to the underside of the furling drum. So this tack line arrangement is kind of an optional extra. It doesn't have to be used. You could attach the continuous furling drum directly to a pad eye on the bowsprit if you wanted to. But by having a tack line, that does allow the drum to be brought onto the deck for perhaps easier management, attachment, unattachment of the drum by just loosening up on the tack line a wee bit. is doubled up at the furling drum and then runs back here into a Chinese finger clamp arrangement that will hold the tack line under tension. This finger clamp allows the tack line to move freely through it unless it's under tension, so we can control it with this simple control line here, which bungees or doesn't bungee the Chinese finger clamp around this 10mm Dyneema cord line, which will be our tack line. So this will allow us to control the luff tension on the sail and the height of the sail as well. So here you can see the furling drum can be brought onto the deck with or without the sail attached, and it's a very versatile system with the tack line attached. To get the tack line tight, we first lead it through a Chinese finger clamp clutch and then through a turning block and to the winch on the mast.
And we have here the furling line with a couple of blocks on it. And basically that's just to furl the sail in and out. This furling line is a continuous 10-meter line. It's a continuous loop so that there's no wraps around the furler. It's just one continuous line that goes around the furling hardware, which is here. So our continuous furling line uses this continuous furling drum. And the furling drum is designed to be lightweight. And as it's using a continuous line, it also has a ratcheting device which secures the furler, and it locks it both in the clockwise and anti-clockwise direction when you let go of the furling line. We wouldn't rely on it. We'll also have a cam cleat used as part of the continuous furler, but it is a nice feature. We would consider this ratcheting feature to be a safety backup feature.
Furling drums themselves are a beautiful piece of engineering, very well manufactured, and some people can get a little carried away as to how attached they become to their furling drums, however.
Our continuous furling line has two blocks that are pre-installed. We have a double block here, which we would thread the end through the furler, and then we would attach this onto one of the pad eyes on top of the dodger, and then we would take the continuous line all the way back to the cockpit with this last block, attach it some way back to the cockpit, and then this is what we would pull to furl the sail.
And we need to mount this now in a place that is easy to access from the cockpit. There's not going to be a huge amount of load on it because it is a continuous furling line, but we do want to be able to simply grab this line and pull it one way or the other. And here are the sheet blocks secured with a piece of Dyneema to a strong point and a bungee to elevate them off the deck.
We have the sail here. It came in this sail bag. It's all nicely folded up, but our objective is to get it hanging to make sure that we have all the hardware that we need, but also to wrap it up, furl it, and then put it back in the sail bag so that we can easily take it out the next time we need it.
So we've got to find in here the head of the sail, the clue and the tank. And then we're going to haul it up. There we go. So this bolt rope is integrated into the sail. So that, I think, will be the tack. That looks more like a clue, judging by the angle. Here, I think, is the head of the sail, because it's a very narrow angle. So this is what we attach to the swivel. So on this FX 4500 Falconer design, there's a little lock pin there. And then that we attach, and it's all locked in nicely. So that'll be the head of the sail. And then I'll pull this neoprene cover back over to stop it whacking things. Okay, so that now we're going to attach to the Gennaker halyard with this horseshoe shackle. our Gennaker halyard runs back to the cockpit. And this big 12mm line here. So we're opening up that, and that can now run freely so we can attach the halyard.
And here we are attaching the halyard to the head of the sail.
So now we attach the two sheets to the clew through here. Put a little bowline in here. Okay, Dawn is now going to look for the tack of the sail at the other end of the bolt rope, and she's going to then attach that, there it is, to the furling drum. But to get more tack line, first of all we have to relax the Chinese finger clamp, and then it should freely pull through to give you more tack line. Okay, so now she's got plenty of tack line, so now she's going to pull that forward, so then she can pull the furling drum back onto the boat. Okay, so now we can access the top of the furling drum, given that we've got plenty of tack line. Now Dawn's grabbing the tack of the sail and is going to attach that to the furling drum, and it's the same mechanism. So now she's inserting the tack of the sail and clamping that into the drum nice and secure. Yep. Pull on the tack line and pull out back out to the bowsprit. Okay, taking up slack on the tack line. Now she's putting the finger clamp lock back in place. 3 points on the sail attached, so now we need to run the sheet, or the pair of sheets, outside the boat back to the cockpit. So the sheets run outside the boat, outside of everything, all and everything. Outside any little halyards that are floating around, or outside the stanchions, outside all the shrouds, standing rigging, everything. All the way to the back, outside the bimini. She's routed the sheet all the way back to the sheet blocks, right on the back here, and these have been attached to the hull to some strong points here, and she's going to thread them through without getting them in a knot, and they're just held onto a strong point on the boat with a piece of Dyneema, just a little Dyneema loop. Okay, and then you can just secure that off on this electric winch. Just a couple of wraps and lock it. Routing the second sheet, you follow the sail all the way up to the drum, and then wrap it around the front of the boat and come back all the way on the outside. Outside of the fishing rod, most important. Now Dawn's threading the port sheet through this turning block here. Oh, that's good. One-handed operation. Pretty cool. Keeping your ropes dry. I'm impressed. Almost. Okay, and just put a couple of wraps around that and double check they're all outside. That looks nice. So now all 3 points on the sail are secured and clamped to the boat. Furling drum, 2 sheets run outside the boat, and the Gennaker halyard up on top. Now we're ready to haul on the Gennaker halyard. Let's check up there, make sure there's no halyard strangeness. That looks good. That's on the starboard side of the boat. We've got wind pretty much on the nose, so this sail is not going to behave anything like a sail, which is partly good news, but there's very, very little wind, so 2 or 3 knots. All we want to do is get it up there and then roll it up into a big sausage. Okay, ready to haul, go for it. Okay, Dawn is now starting to haul on the Gennaker. So that should slowly rise up. Okay, up she goes. Just a little bit paranoid about it being ripping on something. We are now 10 feet in the air. And it's peeling out of its bundle nicely. Everything looks okay. Okay, Don't go overly tight, we don't want to put the swivel over the top. So look at the swivel, there's about a foot to go at the top. There's Chloe's Gennaker, a picture of Chloe. She used to look over the balcony from above in our house, stare down at us. And this was kind of what she looked like. Okay, Dawn's tightening up the tack line now. That's about set pretty well now. It's about the right height, so the bottom of the sail is above the lifelines. Won't get tangled up there. It's actually shaped pretty good for this wind. It's just pretty well on the nose. I'm amazed actually that the sail is filled out like that. Now we're going to furl the sail up into a nice big sausage. Dawn has now attached the double block midway along the continuous furling line, just behind the mast. And then we have to figure out where we're going to install this termination block at the end of the continuous furling line. Somewhere here, so we'll have to attach it to some hardware here with some jamming cleats.
For now, we could just bungee it to this handrail.
Yeah, just temporarily. So now we're going to furl up the sail. So we've got a couple of wraps on the sheet. We're going to put a little bit of tension on the sheet as we furl it. Okay, so she's going to pull on the furling line. Yeah, we're starting to furl now. Because of the tack line, the furling drum is elevated a little bit and the furling line is not really running nicely onto the boat. So we're going to add a little fair lead out on one of the stainless steel rails. Furling up nicely. This is bottom up furling. Bottom up, as they say in Scotland, every day after breakfast. It's about half furled up now. The swivel doesn't seem to be swiveling much at the top yet, but it's early days. Furling line seems to be working quite smoothly, no problems. Dawn's furled up about halfway now. After halfway, the swivel should start operating. I can hear the clutch operating here, the ratchet, but again we don't rely on the ratchet because it's really just a safety mechanism. If you rely on it, you can find the sail suddenly unfurls when you're not expecting it. So we're halfway now, up at the top. The swivel's operating nicely. We're more than halfway, nearly done. So here we're furling very slowly to check that the lines are running fair, and it's clear to us that the continuous furling line does need to be adjusted to prevent any chafe on the navigation lights also. So Dawn's relaxing the sheet at the same time as furling it in, and she's going to judge the best place for the furling line mount as she's doing this, because that's what we're going to have to fix in hardware later on. So the furling line could be a little bit longer to be ideal. She's going to put a couple of wraps on it now, just to keep the sail tidy and to stop it unraveling when we put it away in the bag. That's pretty good now. So now she's all wrapped up, nicely furled. Still got a lot of good tension. And this really is tight, this tack line. As my friend Kevin says, it's boned. I think that's a G string right there. So we control the tack line tension with the winch here. Here you can see the continuous furling line is going to chafe on the furling drum for the jib. But the height of the sail is nicely elevated so that the sail will never chafe on the lifelines. We'll add a little fair lead to sort that out. And we'll reduce the tack line by about 8 inches. We're taking down the sail now. We've undone the sheets. Sheets are nicely wrapped around the sail. We've tidied them away. Sail bag is ready. We're going to put the bottom of the sail in first, the tack, including the drum. So we're just going to remove the tack line and bring this whole thing inboard. And here we have relaxed the tack line and unshackled the furling drum and brought it back over to the sail bag, ready for packing it away. Dropping the Gennaker now. Dawn is coiling the furled up sail into the sail bag with the drum attached.
Okay, give me another 4 or 5 feet.
Okay. It's kind of like sausage packing.
Here we have the tack line adjusted down as it would be in real sailing conditions. And we're trying to optimize the route of the furling line back to the cockpit. So we're now routing outside of the stanchions at the pulpit because there was potential to get hung up on the jib furling drum. We're also routing the furling line underneath all the running rigging, like the jib sheets and the jib staysail furler, so that those could be running free if we ever need to use those when we take the Gennaker down. We're also keeping the furling line below the tack line because the tack line naturally runs above the furling line to the winch on the mast.
We think we're happy with this length of Gennaker, so later on we'll mark Gennaker with a Sharpie. One of the points of this exercise is to figure out to mark the end of the furling line so that we can attach the hardware. Now that we've got the length, this furling line which runs through the granny bars, we've got this double block here in the middle, and this is how far it comes back at that point. We'll put a little pad eye at the back here, a little Dyneema strap or something just to hold this back, and then we'll just be able to attach this little carabiner here very simply from now on. And then forwards, we're going to put a pair of cam cleats just to stop the line doing things it shouldn't do. We're going to install the end of the furling line so that there's a reasonable amount of tension on here. It's not a huge load on it tight, so it runs fairly all the time way up there. So we're going to have to drill a couple of holes in here and attach a pad eye and then cam cleats. So the thickness of this is not poured under here. This is just solid fiberglass top, and under here in this line locker there's a plate that has also got its core missing, I assume for this very purpose. So I've undone this plate here. It should just pop out simply. There's the lines running through the additional blocks inside there. There's all the halyards and control lines. Oh, beautifully made, very smooth. Okay, so we're going to stick our cam plates in this solid plate here. You can see where the aluminium stops and where the fiberglass lid starts. Okay, that's actually perfect. Yeah, I'm just going to widen this hole first. Solid fiberglass, so we don't need to seal them with epoxy. We're just going to put a blob of Sikaflex in there. Someone's got her Sikaflex stash here. Okay, so a good dollop of Sikaflex in there. Shove this in. A couple of nice long M6 bolts. Okay, now we've got two holes and we've slightly offset the angle here so it's easy to pick them out, easy to pick out the line for furling. And we're going to install the jam cleats in here, and Dawn is going to stick some sickle flax in there just because this is a solid piece of the top side. We don't need to seal the core. Do you like doing that, Dawn?
It takes great skill.
Skill, the look of focus and intense smartness, smarty pants.
Like an Olympic sport. Alright.
Alright. Okay, so this is the line we want to stop unraveling. So we're going to put the cleat in this way. Like that. Nice. We've offset that a bit. That'll be easy to put there. Right. And we connected the block to the pad eye with a little bit of cord, and we may end up removing this cord once the line stretches a little bit. So the point of this exercise is to figure out all the positions of the various pieces by discovering that when the furling drum is at the right height, this furling line is a little bit high and it's probably going to chafe against the bracket that holds the navigation light here. Put a little double fairway guide just to keep that furling line in place at a good height, and so it's not going to chafe on the front roller.
That way you could move this guide, this fair lead, you could move it lower if you want to skip the tack line and hook directly to the eye on the bowsprit.
So that's another option, is you just tie this continuous furling line furler directly to the bowsprit. Skip the whole tack line arrangement entirely. The tack line has three benefits. It allows the adjustment of the height of the furling drum, so when you're sailing you can adjust the curvature of the sail, how full the sail will pillow out, which will give you a trim control function. Two, it allows you to tighten up the whole genoa without pulling on the genoa. You can just come up here and pull on this tack line, which has got a double purchase, so it's very tight. And three, you can adjust the height so that the sail is going to clear the lifelines and not chafe on the lifelines potentially. And so all of that is a trade-off against simplicity. It would have been simpler just to attach the furling drum directly to the bowsprit pad eye there. So we might do that in the future if we get fed up with the tack line, but for now we'll play with the tack line, see if it adds some useful benefit. So this is a twin fair lead for furling lines, continuous furling lines. You can route it through there and get it on and off like that. Push it in, rotate it, Selden, for 8 to 10 millimeter lines. So we're just going to guide this off. This will be to help guide the furling line off of the furling drum so it doesn't chafe on the navigation line. Star drive to unpack it. That's the end of this little video showing the installation of our Gennaker. Later on we'll make another video showing how the Gennaker performs with a little bit of wind.